I'm Alex Burton. This is The Business File. Our program today is built around the implications of a single word, marketing. It's a word with a far-reaching definition because it's one of the most significant in the vocabulary of modern business. Like accounting and production, marketing is one of the major functions of a business. The long-term success of any company, large or small, whether providing services or products, is linked to successful marketing practices. So it's essential for a manager to understand what it is and what's involved. In this next half hour, we are going to explore and sort out the meaning, the history, the dynamic functions, and the broad ramifications of marketing. And we're going to get some expert help from a series of short documentary pieces we've put together and from two experienced guests. One, who we will be visiting at the University of Colorado, is a well-known professor of marketing. And then we'll go to Dallas to meet with a product manager whose company has compiled quite an impressive marketing record. To a lot of people, marketing conjures up the notion of selling. At least I've heard it used that way. I've used it that way myself, as if it were synonymous with selling a product or service. Well, we're going to see that selling is a part of marketing, but only a part. Marketing is much larger in scope, involves a wide range of a company's activities. It takes in everything, from understanding the needs of the customer and the condition of the marketplace to product development, promotion, distribution, and pricing. So I guess you could say that, in a sense, marketing is what a business is all about. It can sure be the difference between success and failure in a product, or a company for that matter. And to prove that, all you have to do is stand on the corner, watch the cars go by. And let me show you what I mean, because earlier we took a look at two of those cars. You might say that over the long term, marketing paves the way for the success of a product. It certainly did for this product. Do you recognize it? Probably do. One of the most successful cars ever built, the Ford Mustang. I remember very well when the Mustang came out back in 1964. It seemed to have been designed just for me. Well, there's another car over here you might recognize too. Or possibly you don't. This car also was built by the Ford Motor Company, and it came out a few years before the Mustang was introduced. This is one of the original Edsels. Ah, now you recognize it, because the Edsel was so poorly received by people that the word itself has come to symbolize failure. How could the same company create two cars that took off in completely different directions? According to a lot of experts, the difference is practicing marketing. The Edsel was a well-engineered automobile. It was designed by a team of experts who had a lot of experience in the auto industry. They chose the most innovative features, gave it the latest technology, and the style, the look of the car was a valiant attempt to lead the way, set a new trend in automobiles. The Edsel hit the market with a lot of fanfare and very poor sales. True, there was an economic downturn that year, and that didn't help. But the fact is, the Edsel was designed by a company looking inward. Maybe they didn't stop to consider what marketing is all about. It was the car automotive designers wanted to build without ever really knowing what the public wanted to buy. It was just produced, period. But the Mustang was a different story. It was built to satisfy people's needs. The design began with thorough market research. The research uncovered a new market segment, a target market, identified what the market wanted. What the company found out about the buyers in the market provided a profile for the car itself. Its size, its shape, engineering, performance, equipment, even the price. The Mustang was designed and built to fit that profile. But I'm getting ahead of the story. At the end of the program, we're going to look at these two cars again, and by then, you should have a clear insight into the reason why one had a smooth highway, while the other one traveled a short and awfully rocky road. But you know, the idea of marketing a product like the Mustang, with all the activities involved in it, has not always been with us. Actually, the whole concept has evolved as a result of changes in technology, economics, our whole society during this century. And to see how the evolution took place, we put together a piece on the history of marketing. After the Second World War, American business, in a lot of ways, sat in a pretty comfortable position. The demand for goods from a growing population was high, and there were relatively few companies to supply them. So businesses were production-oriented. Their first priority was to produce enough goods to keep up with demand. In that environment, the economy grew. The number of manufacturers increased. Inventories began to develop, and competition intensified. To move these inventories, companies began to emphasize selling. The job of the sales force was to create desire, convince customers that products turned out by the factory fit their needs. But as products became more sophisticated, manufacturing capacity increased and competition became tougher. Simply selling the product wasn't enough anymore. Smart companies began to look at their markets, identify needs and desires of potential customers, and develop products to match them. Marketing-oriented companies realize that long-term growth depends on satisfying consumer needs at a profit. Those needs influence the basic steps in marketing: how products are promoted, priced, and distributed. In short, in a marketing company, all efforts of the business are aimed at identifying and satisfying the customer's needs. Now I'd like to introduce our first guest, who's standing by in his offices in Boulder, Colorado. He is Professor William Stanton. Dr. Stanton is Professor of Marketing at the University of Colorado. Dr. Stanton, welcome to our program.
Marketing people generally like to talk a little bit about their field, so I'm pleased to have the opportunity.
We've just seen a production piece about the evolution of marketing. It took us from the days of production orientation to marketing-oriented companies. Tell us, what impact has this marketing evolution had on modern business?
Yeah, today we're really in what you might say the third stage. Most companies are in this called the marketing orientation stage. And the key here is we finally recognize, whereas unlike the production stage when the idea was build a better mousetrap, the sales stage when it was to high pressure sell that mousetrap, now our attention is devoted to satisfying the customer. Find out what the market wants first, and then let's go back and develop a product to satisfy that. We call this the marketing concept.
Dr. Stanton, what do you mean by the term marketing concept?
It really has three foundation stones, but the key one is a customer orientation. Now, this ties in with marketing. The companies finally realizing that marketing is the key to their success. Marketing generates the revenues in a firm. Somebody once said, nothing happens until somebody sells something. Now, our problem really is not how to make stuff. We can make all kinds of cars. We can make all kinds of TV sets, grow corn. Our problem is, how do you market it? So marketing is the key to the success of any organization.
Before we get too far into our discussion, I'd like everyone to be clear on what marketing is. So tell us, what's involved? What functions take place in marketing?
Well, let me use a word I feel a little more comfortable with, marketing activities. I know the books call them marketing functions, but sometimes that word means different things to different people. Selling is one marketing activity, or function, if you will. But the opposite, buying, that's another marketing activity. The physical distribution activities of transportation and warehousing. This whole marketing process, we must finance it. So financing becomes one of the marketing activities. Standardizing and grading whatever it is we're marketing. There's a risk in this, so we have risk bearing as a marketing activity. And finally, not the least, but certainly a very important one, we call market information. Sometimes marketing research is part of that.
So those are some of the functions, or as you say, activities of marketing. But it seems to me that marketing is a dynamic type of process. So what is a company actually doing when they market?
Well, marketing, first we assume that we identify the goals of our whole marketing organization. Now, to reach those goals, we're going to first identify the market. We call it a target market that we are going after. Then we develop a strategic marketing mix to provide satisfaction for that market. I said strategic marketing mix. This is like in baking, you put in different ingredients. There is product planning, developing a distribution system, setting up a pricing structure, and identifying promotional activities. Four elements.
Dr. Stanton, you say that the first step is to identify a target market. In a moment, I want to ask you to elaborate on that, but first, we need to be sure we understand just what a market is. Well, we've developed an explanation, and I'd like to show that to you now. A market is more than just people. It is people who have the authority, they make the decision, and the ability, the money or the credit necessary, to purchase a particular product or service that satisfies their demand. A closer look would reveal there is not just one market, there are hundreds, even thousands of them. There are markets for people who like boating. There are markets for people who want housing. There are markets for people who need food. Knowing that, the challenge for a business is to identify these distinct markets. The task of marketing is to divide or segment large, unwieldy, ill-defined markets into smaller ones that share the same identifiable needs and characteristics. A starting point for such segmentation is that there are two broad categories of markets, consumer and industrial. The consumer market is made up of individuals who buy products for their personal use. In the industrial market, businesses, government agencies, and other organizations buy products for their operations or for making other products. But the consumer and industrial segments are still too enormous to aim at for marketing purposes. It is the task of marketing to identify specific needs of segments of the market. For example, all people need shoes, but their wants and needs are different. So some businesses produce a product to suit the needs of hunters and hikers. Others concentrate on the shoes wanted by golfers. Still others respond to the desires of people who will be satisfied only with high fashion. These are distinct, identifiable markets. People who need hunting shoes, people who need golf shoes, and people who need high fashion shoes. By segmenting the market, identifying the needs of people in it, a business has a group of customers to aim at, a target market. A successful company finds what their target market wants, then develops a product and a market plan to reach the people in that target market. With that explanation, Dr. Stanton, I think we're ready now to get back to the question I had about target markets. How does a company go about identifying and segmenting a market from an overall market?
Well, usually firms today don't want to look at the total, say, USA market. It's just too broad and heterogeneous, too mixed, too different. So they try to identify within that broad market separate units that we call segments. And then once they identify a segment, they can develop a different marketing mix, a strategic marketing program to reach each segment. Now, the segment may be set up on the basis of, say, some demographic feature. For example, age. We might have segment our market by age. We got the market of people over 65. We got infant market. Maybe for vitamin pills, go into both markets. We also can segment our market maybe by geographical region, the Sun Belt market, the northern regions. We can segment by economic strength. Maybe we're marketing to a high-income market or a middle-income market. And even user benefits. We can segment a market on some benefit basis. For example, in marketing toothpaste, some people buy toothpaste because they want real white teeth. Other people, another segment, buys toothpaste to reduce cavities.
Well, when you're in the process of segmenting the market, identifying the actual market, do you evaluate it for other factors?
We may have a segment, but to be a viable, a useful segment for our marketing program, it must be one that's big enough to make it worth going after it. So we would want to identify what we call the market potential or our company's sales potential. We might forecast the sales that we could get out of that segment. It's got to be big enough to make it worthwhile. It also must be one that we can reach. We might have a beautiful segment, but there's no way we can get to it. So we certainly want a segment that is big enough and reachable.
To round out our discussion, Dr. Stanton, I'd like to ask you to cover one more very important point with us. And again, I want to set the question up with the piece we've produced. It's an animated, step-by-step explanation of the marketing process. Marketing a product or service is a step-by-step process. First, one must identify the target market, then analyze its needs, and research its potential. What demand and buying power is there? What level of sales and profits might it yield? market information becomes a blueprint for defining and developing the product itself. Once the product is developed, there are three elements to work with: distribution, price, and promotion. And finally, one must have after-sales service to monitor the product and ensure that it is satisfying the customer's needs. So, Dr. Stanton, there are the basic steps of the marketing process. Would you give us an explanation? In a marketing-oriented company, what's involved in these steps?
Well, again, we assume we've got the goals set for the whole marketing organization. Then we come to the marketing process. The first thing is to identify our target market and then analyze that market in considerable depth so we know the sales we can expect. We know in detail what that market's comprised of. Then we develop a product to reach that market. Then I have to develop a distribution system to get that product to the market. I have to price that product, see the elements in the marketing mix again, and develop a promotional program, all designed to provide want satisfaction for that market. So from that market that I'm trying to satisfy, I will hope to get a feedback loop that we call marketing information. Maybe our company has a marketing information system, or perhaps is more popularly known as marketing research.
Dr. Stanton, with our next guest, we're going to see how the marketing process is applied by one of the country's major food companies. But right now, I want to thank you for taking time from a very busy day to be with us.
I enjoy it very much, and I've enjoyed working with you on it.
The Frito-Lay Corporation, headquartered in Dallas, is recognized for its ability to introduce successful new products into the food industry. Doritos Corn Chips, for example, had the most successful introduction in terms of sales volume of any product ever in U.S. supermarkets. How do they do it? We are going now to the offices of a man who's right in the middle of the activity. He is Earl Shirley, product manager for the tortilla chips division and 3 other brands of snack foods. He's been involved in marketing in the U.S. and internationally for a number of years. Mr. Shirley, I am looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it, too.
We just left Dr. William Stanton in Boulder, Colorado. He's given us an overview of the marketing process. What we want to do now is talk about that process in terms of one particular product. So what product are we going to take a look at?
We're going to look at Sabritas tortilla chips, one of our more recent products here at Frito-Lay.
Fine. We learned that the first step of the marketing process is to identify a potential target market. How did you do that with Sabritas, Earl?
Well, this target market originally came to our attention by observing, especially in the West Coast, that a lot of regional producers of Mexican foods had started marketing these restaurant-style tortilla chips, similar to the products you get in Mexican restaurants.
Okay. From that clue, how did you develop a specific target market?
Well, we started with the overall target market of snack users. We did an intensive usage and attitude piece of research to identify why people use our products and use all kinds of snacks, and how, if there are any niches in the market that we might identify for a new product. What we found was that there's essentially 2 uses for snacks. That's either just right out of the bag, which is the most common, and a relatively new way of using snacks, which is with food, with dips or in casseroles or this type of thing. And that's where we identified this target for Mexican food in particular.
So from all this, Earl, what did you decide was your specific target market?
Okay, the target market is essentially older 35 to 50-year-old homemakers with families who like to prepare Mexican dishes and dips for their families. They're located primarily in the southwestern part of the U.S. and on the West Coast, and tend to be upper-income families.
What were the needs of this target market?
This market has some pretty simple needs for this type of product, since it is used as a secondary ingredient, either to dips or other ingredients in a casserole or Mexican food. The consumer primarily wants it there for texture. They don't want the taste to be very strong. They want a very mild taste and a low salt level, since most of the other products they're mixing it with already have a great deal of salt. So essentially, it's mild taste and low salt are the key consumer needs in this type of product.
According to Professor Stanton, knowing the needs of your target market is something like 1/2 of the equation of the marketing process. The other part is the market's potential. What's the potential of this market?
Okay. We, right now, as I said, this product is confined to primarily the southwestern U.S. and the West Coast, where Mexican food is already very popular. Right now, we think the total market is probably in the range of $200 million just in those areas, which we think we can get a large percentage of. Eventually, though, why we think this is a very important market to be in is that the trend is toward Mexican food expanding to all parts of the country, the Northeast, the Southeast, et cetera. And so eventually we think this has the potential of being an $800 to $1 billion market, of which we would like to have a significant piece.
So at this point, you knew what the target market was, you knew its needs, and also its sales potential. How did you go about developing a product to reach the target market and satisfy its needs?
We went to our R&D group and asked them to design a product, hopefully superior to anything on the market. What they came back with is the product that we're now marketing as Sabritas, which, according to our consumer research now, indicates that it performs very well against the consumer needs of mild flavor and low salt.
How did you design the other elements in the marketing mix, price, distribution, and promotion, to support Sabritas?
First of all, price is very important in this type of product. It is a secondary ingredient to other types of foods, and people aren't going to pay a premium price for a secondary ingredient, no matter how superior it is to the competition. So we had to be competitively priced. We are, and consequently, we're somewhat lower priced than most of our other products are versus competition. As all of our other products at Frito-Lay are, they're very broadly distributed. This is a convenience-type product. The consumer's not going to shop around for it, and it has to be available almost anywhere consumers are shopping for food. So consequently, we're looking for very broad distribution, almost all retail food outlets for this product. We don't intend to advertise it on television, since the characteristics of this product as a secondary ingredient aren't really those that you'd want to spend a lot of money advertising. Instead, what we're going to do is try to promote the primary usage of Mexican foods and dips by distributing these recipes, of which, of course, Sabritas is a very important part. These will be on the shelf in the store, and we're distributing in a promotional sense this brochure with various Mexican recipes. Our promotion schedule is very strong. This is a product that needs space in the store, needs retail trade support, and consequently our trade promotions are very strong to get secondary displays, to get placement of the product in the Mexican food section, and to get various displays throughout the store so that the product's visible to the consumer and available when she's shopping for the other ingredients that go into these food products.
Earl, why did you decide on that kind of a marketing mix?
Well, we looked at a variety of different marketing mixes for this product, including advertising, as we do on most of our brands, including a lot of consumer promotions rather than trade promotion. We looked at intensive public relations campaign, a variety of different things to try to find the right one that was going to get this product into as many consumers' hands as possible. Why we finally decided on what we did were the overwhelming competitive characteristics of price and trade support. And as any company has, as any household has, there are budget constraints. And within our budget constraints, we decided those were the two most important marketing objectives we had to accomplish. And that's why the program is constructed as it is. The marketing mix is constructed as it is.
Earl, thank you for being with us today. What we've learned here in a short visit is that the marketing process and the strategies involved in it are not just things outlined in a textbook. Companies like Frito-Lay use them, rely on them to develop products and get them to market. Thanks for your comments.
Thank you. I enjoyed it very much also.
To summarize what we've learned from our interviews with Dr. Stanton and Mr. Shirley, what this whole program has shown us is that the starting point in marketing is to identify customer needs. You might even say that's what marketing is all about. Once you've identified those needs and know what customers want, you have a target market. And with a target market defined, you can build what's called a marketing mix around it. You could picture, if you want, the marketing mix a kind of a wheel with the target market as the hub, 4 spokes, the 4 strategies supporting it: product, price, promotion, distribution. Without a strong hub, the whole wheel will collapse, as it did, well, with the Edsel. Now we have some of the whys and wherefores of marketing, and now I can finish the story I started earlier on these 2 cards. When it was introduced to the world in 1957, the Edsel was really the pride of the Ford Motor Company. It was named for a member of the Ford family, designed by select committees of people in the company, and it was a car meant for a vast market. In fact, it came out in an unusually large number of different models and prices, so there would be something for just about everybody. But the market for the Edsel was not only vast, it was vague. The variety of models and the pricing structure just added to the confusion. The Edsel was all things to all people. There was no clearly defined need or target market for this product. So the strategies around designing it, pricing it, selling it collapsed. There were 110,000 Edsels sold the year it was introduced. But 4 times as many people bought the first model of the Mustang. The concept of the Mustang began with market research aimed at identifying a target market. The needs of the market supplied basic design parameters. Cars should be easy to handle, go from 0 to 60 in 7 or 8 seconds, styled with a long, low front end and a short rear deck. And it should be priced for young people or as a second family car. And out of the target market's needs came a product and the start of the marketing mix. A product was born, and Ford had one of its greatest successes. I'm Alex Burton, and this has been The Business File.